Yes! I have infinite power! There we go. Don't need chat in there, but okay, if I have it, then I have it. Who cares? You can do that. There we go. Infinite power. I'm only 20 minutes. Well, 24 hours and 20 minutes late. Oh. Okay. In case you were wondering, Google was being annoying and not telling me the right answer. It's almost like that new AI shit made the app worse. Made Google less able to understand my thinking. But, you know, 2 steps forward, 1 back. Maybe we'll get there. But, after last week's amazing little conversation with 2 of my viewers, I wanted to get into a little bit of this question on certainty. Oh shit, I wanted that one. Control Shift T, and we have to turn it off. No, pause. There we go. And we're also going to do a lovely little comment here, which I think captures a lot of it, which just makes sense because Asif was one of the people here when we were talking about certainty. So, in fact, one of the people who spurred on the whole conversation. So, before we give people an opportunity to pre-read, you can look at the Quran. I would like to fix the overlay a little bit and tell you about certainty. So, did I find everything and get everything ready? Is this the one? This one? I remember that one. Oh yeah, we got another doubt metaphor. But where did I put the one good one? No. Okay, I'm assuming I have everything. So, I did have a better analogy, I think, for explaining certainty than my whole raincoat analogy, and also better than going all the way deep into philosophy and explaining things from the Cartesian point of view. But I can't find it right now, and this is more important to me to get something done than to get the right thing done all the time. So what I would argue here, or what I'm trying to get across here, is basically many people seem to suggest that seem to feel that there is a difficulty in choosing actions when you have uncertainty. Especially, like, this goes back to the comment I'm going to be responding to. I thought you were advocating for atheism. I wanted to hear a bit how you would go about setting a course for your life as an atheist. And this seems to very many people to be a difficult thing, to be hard to imagine. And I find it very frustrating, as do all atheists, because it's very easy for us to apply the empathy to you guys and understand how you guys are doing the same thing, but very hard apparently to flip it around. So if you have dedicated your life to the study of religion, then that's the same kind of motivation as someone who dedicates their life to the study of literally anything else. It's something that they have encountered in the world, and they guide their life based on what they have encountered and how they feel and react. It's very sentimentalist, the explanation that we give. But that doesn't explain the reason why, like the whole thing about not being certain, and the whole thing about being comfortable not being certain, being comfortable acting on uncertain knowledge, whether that is the uncertain knowledge about whether or not it's going to rain, whether it's the uncertain knowledge about whether or not you're going to need a first aid kit and need to prepare. It's about, well, I don't know. What's... I don't know, it feels so weirdly so obvious when I'm thinking about it that I need somebody else to tell me why it isn't obvious for me to understand why it isn't obvious. And why Did I lose my lovely little... Oh, no, I didn't. I just folded it. I think this maybe catches a little bit of the point here. You should constantly be searching for the things you are wrong about. Always know that you are wrong about something. Therefore, discover your mistakes before you are forced to. And that kind of goes into the whole core of the issue. You should know that you're wrong constantly. You should be aware constantly that you are misinformed. Nothing you ever think or believe will ever be enough certainty. There will never be enough information for you to have that level of confidence where you can just act on things. Or no, you can act on things where they become logically confident, or like the whole idea of certainty here is just an excuse to hide bad ideas so that you don't have to engage with them. And I was thinking about this when I was cooking right before I was eating. I genuinely believe, as most atheists do, that if you engage and try and figure out the good life and try and understand like what God means, assuming there is a God, if you try to spend your life trying to understand this, then you are doing better than somebody who's just blindly followed what everyone else is doing. I feel I get a lot of support for this view in the Quran, where it talks about the hypocrites, and yeah, I feel like that's a good summary. I'm too dizzy to remember what I wanted to say about that, so I'm just gonna go ahead and read the comment, reply to the comment, and try to. I've already done it a little bit, but try to get the sort of essence of it. Hello, Elysia. Do you have any comments on uncertainty? So, hi Andy. I hadn't watched the beginning when I joined the conversation, somewhere in the middle, lacking context. I thought you were advocating for atheism, and I wanted to hear a bit more about how you would go about setting a course for your life as an atheist. And it's pretty much the same as you do for all other things. You just, when you make the decision of setting your life according to what you think God is, then that's the same as the people who just, either it's because like we say, either it's just tradition, people who grew up with it, like you always used to be this kind of people being around you, but yeah, no. Or you spaced out. Or you decide that you don't want to. I'm already. My brain today is worse. I'm a little bit ill, and I also did checked all of my coursework that I have to do this year. But yeah, or you, as an atheist, you do the same thing as religious people. You either follow in the footsteps of the people around you, follow tradition, or you decide that you have you find something that makes you feel good. Like we say things like we couch it in this beautiful philosophical language of making you realize what finding yourself and becoming yourself and manifesting yourself and finding something that gives you value in your life. That's what I was thinking about. That's how we typically would phrase it, but the realistic effect is you just try things, see how they make you feel, and then you act, and how the consequences of those actions make you feel, and then you act based on that. But anyway, having watched the beginning now, I'm glad you're not as Islamophobic as you were prior to reading the Quran. And also, I think that's this statement, I think people are underestimating what a slam dunk this was for me, for the Islamophobe, is actually that just proves my point. The whole point I was making about, you should be able to insult God, you don't need to prove you are grateful. I kind of hinted at this last live stream. The kind of people who insist that they're who have to tell you how grateful they are, I wouldn't believe them. I would be very skeptical of them. But yeah, no, I think this sentence here, this sort of realization that, I engaged with Islam in the most Islamophobic way that was necessary, and you know what, Islam can take it. It wasn't it wasn't the end of the world. Nothing happened. Obviously, that was what I realized, that nothing bad was going to happen, and therefore not phobic as in the most literal sense. Um, but also it's like, why? And I guess the whole problem here is going to come back down to, will I get punished in the afterlife? And I'm going to straight up say I will be as happy for being punished for flinging shit about, saying shit about God, as you will be for being punished for helping orphans, right? I feel like it's a good thing I did, and I don't see. And if God wants to punish me for doing good, then okay, that doesn't undermine my confidence. Um, so I feel like I'm going to try and emphasize this somehow to sort of get to it, but I'm also very distracted, as we will see as I go on, because I feel like there's also something I've spotted that most Muslims don't spot, understandably don't spot, because they don't test all of these things. They don't go out and say, well, if God says not to drink, I wonder why. And then they go and get drunk. Like, obviously, I've done that even before I knew what Islam was. So, or even before I knew that there were religious sects who strictly oppose alcohol. So, yeah. So I think there's going to be a lot of insight into. I feel like that's something I want to share with people. This sort of epistemic way of reading theology. So let's see. As for certainty, as far as I don't know exactly how you want to phrase it, as certain knowledge goes, we are clear that humans' understanding is fallible. Perfect. But we are certain of some knowledge, and the core of it is, and this is going to be a big, long one, which I almost feel like I'm going to need to write down notes, but we can go back to. So this life is temporary. We will die one day. That's great. That is not an axiom. That's not something like you need to be certain of. That's something you can observe. You can see it happen. All living things die. Perfect. This is an empirical conclusion. We will be resurrected, and we will be held accountable for what we did in this life. Now, this is a really touchy one, but that the thing I'm trying to argue is that there is a conceivable, or like an understandable argument from the Quran saying that, arguing to this effect, that this is a conclusion. I think I phrased it last time. If you get drunk, you have consequences. Day after, you get hangover. Like, God doesn't wait until the end of your life to punish you for the transgressions of the Quran. He punishes you immediately, often while laughing, in my experience. But so this again, we have this sort of issue here. Like, okay, well, why are you taking conclusions, things you should have learned from life, as given certainties? And very suspicious of this decision. And we'll get to why that. Our job is to live this life carefully and not transgress the limit set by God. Oh, I wonder what my whole problem was. Oh, yes, there we go. So, live this life carefully, fine. Not transgress the limit set by God. It's like, well, there have been quite a lot of different gods that have set quite a lot of different limits. And I'm like, oh, no, but actually, we only mean this one. And like, this also doesn't necessarily, like, not transgress the limits of God should be a conclusion of the fact of this other prior conclusion. This conclusion that we will be held accountable. Well, okay, that's why you shouldn't transgress it. Like, so understanding why things are happening, understanding the way things are connected is a much more valuable thing, I think, than just being, like, the difference between someone who blindly does whatever they say because they have no other choice. That's what I view Muslims as, honestly, versus the people who like try and understand things, as I view most atheists as. So in my, to be snarky as I possibly can, I think atheists are better Muslims than most Muslims. But we'll get to there. So our job is to convey this message to others. The whole message, presumably, or the limit set by God. Like, I mean, your job, like, is that the only thing you do with your life? And if it is, You could do a lot better at it, as I hope I have demonstrated, because it's always the same thing. It's always the same appeals. It's always the same sort of, oh, come to us and be a group, be part of the group, and we will all love each other and be happy together. Like, that doesn't appeal to individualists, it appeals to collectivists. And we really have a lot of suspicion for these collectivists. Good reason to be suspicious. But again, I have empathy for Muslims who don't have this same suspicion, who have gone their whole lives not thinking about the dangers of fascism or how easy it is to be a communist, despite the very obvious track record of communism. So, we seek no reward should you accept the message, which is literally false. The reason, like, part of the message is that you will be held accountable. So, I mean, I guess maybe that's held accountable is only seen as punishment. Though I would argue that a reward, not getting a punishment, could be its own reward. And we receive no blame should you reject it. Oh, should you accept this message? I see. Not the teaching of others. I think that if you, I think that's not entirely true. I think that if you have, if there are signs in the world, there are signs for all to see, as they say, and you should be able to learn from, like, the whole sort of tragedy here is a feeling of, well, because the final prophet said it, now it's done. Now all the knowledge is compiled in this one book. Now we don't need to understand anymore, because we this is all of the knowledge that there ever will be. So we're done. But obviously not. Obviously, humans are fallible. We've already been over this. We've already discussed this. Humans are fallible, so that means that unless you think that we're going to make the same mistake or the same misinterpretation forever, or in which case you should really encourage Islamophobes, because they're gonna always exist. So congratulations to them. No, but the more obvious thing to me seems that if you have something which is supposed to give you meaning and learning every single day, or forever, that is supposed to always be true, well, then you have to continuously learn from it. You have to continuously engage your brain to understand these things. And receive no blame should you reject it. Obviously, it's not your fault how other people believe, but if you can persist in an action which you have gotten the signs that you should have known, and that's kind of what it feels like is a lot of the message of the Quran, is like, well, we have signs that drinking is bad because you get hungover. We have signs that women need to be more careful about how men view them, because men have this sort of weird power dynamic and often abuse this weird power dynamic. So, if viewed as evidence, then it makes a lot more sense. I guess we're getting at a sort of key issue here, which is that Muslims are forgetting that I love to say this to Christians as well. The first Christians were Jewish, and the first Muslims were either pagans or Christians. They were people who did not believe it, had lived a life not believing it, and had tried most of the other things. They had experience and knowledge of these things that Muslims today seem to lack. And I feel like it is because of this lack of experience and knowledge, because of this cultural adherence to not just a religious aspect. Like, there are many, like, every human being tries to do good and sometimes fails. But Muslims have tried to do these sort of good things to themselves and have sort of succeeded for so long that they cannot even comprehend of the consequences should they not succeed. And of course, like I said, you will get punished in this life. For us people who have tried, you don't need to wait. The only reason I like the idea of that you need to wait is as a cure for alcoholism. Like people who presume, like, if you wake up in the morning, have a hangover, you get drunk to cure your hangover, and then you do that repeatedly, like every time you wake up with an even worse hangover, every time you fill up more alcohol, just keep going, keep delaying the inevitable, keep making the inevitable worse and worse and worse. Well, it's sort of, it isn't, it is almost more fundamentally logical. It's like the Copernican principle to a certain extent. It says, well, if in this life, then surely, if even though we can see the consequences when we're alive, well, if we know that there are consequences when we are alive, shouldn't we sort of assume that even though we cannot see them, that they should continue? Um, that even after death there is something, because we know that there is something in life. And that argument, I think, is much more compelling than most of the arguments I've ever heard, honestly, from ever heard for religion, especially all the theological semantic nonsense. I persist in my belief that it is all just a variant of the all these logical theological arguments are just a variation of the theme. Let's just call it God, because we don't know what else to call it. But yeah, okay. Convey this message to others. You don't get rewarded if I accept. You don't get punished if I fail, or you don't get blame if I reject. Or okay, interesting reward and blame choice that were there. Believe with 100% certainty there is a message that this is a message of God conveyed by His prophets. So that the thing said before this is the message that is being conveyed, and that is poison. The poison, because like I said, this is a conclusion. This, I think, should be a conclusion based, this is definitely a conclusion. We die one day. We will be held accountable, I think, is a reasonable conclusion. Like I said with this argument, our job is to live carefully and not transgress the limits of God. And it's like, well, that's too vague of a specification. You need to, the limit set by God in this case, you take any of the, by saying that your job is not to transgress the limits, are you taking the limits themselves? Because that's where I have an issue. If the idea is that you shouldn't transcend, because to translate this into atheist speak, you shouldn't transgress natural law. You shouldn't transgress ethics. You shouldn't transgress what is good. And that's like, okay, you shouldn't transgress into what is bad. Fair enough. But if these limits set by God is, well, and then we come to this sort of, well, this is the message of Moses, and then you have this circularity. It's like, well, this is the message of God is to not transgress the limits, which we believe is the thing, which we are certain is the thing because we believe it. You need to be open to the understanding, I will even say, that it is not, that you do not know what the full message of God is, regardless of whether there is a God, regardless of how He spoke to us, regardless of who His prophets were. Never in your life should you go out thinking, I have seen the same. I call this taking yourself as a partner with God. So that much is certain for us to the extent of the core idea. My wording may not be perfect. Yeah. So is the theory of relativity certain? Using relativity as a good example here, what the limits are, you should always be open to understanding what more and more. And to make a better argument with this, we've invented drugs. I'm not drinking, and that was the limit set by God. No, not insufficient. To me, that seems like it's just the sort of a la carte picking and choosing what gives you comfort. If you do not think about this sort of, I am always uncertain, I will always need to know more, then you go, well, okay, I know of alcohol, therefore at a young age, or these people knew of alcohol, therefore they knew all of the things that we should be worried about. There are many things that are of the same category as alcohol, and I would argue that if you are going to take this as good evidence, then you should include everything which is in the category of alcohol, not just the specific things. Not just follow it as a weird list, as if it's some sort of uh, omnipotent alien being that has come to us, or seemingly omnipotent alien being that has sort of come to us and said, well, I checked that, and if you go down this route, and this route, then it all goes to shit. But it feels more like a set of sort of, these are the things we should care about. Oh, I only have top chat on. That's bad. Okay, there we go. You didn't write anything. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Let's see. So I feel like it's important for us to constantly confront our own limitations on this matter. And if we don't, then we run into the risk of thinking we are godlike. We run into the risk of standing before God and saying, but he told me, and so I believed him. And can you really punish me for me just listening and obeying to God's word? And I was like, yeah, bro, I can. I'm God, motherfucker. And I see, like that. The idea that you talk to someone. You talk to God, and the idea is, well, I understood it, so therefore he's never going to tell me I'm wrong about it. Like, no, you should know that God's mind is always greater than your own, and knowing this, you should know that there is always something you haven't learned yet, something you haven't understood yet. I feel like it's a failure of every human being who believes in God, every religious human being, to think that they will stand before God and God will tell them, you did good, everything correct, go on. Like, you should be you should be nervous, like you're nervous at a test. You should be nervous, like, oh, are they going to ask me about that one thing that I didn't read about? Like, and obviously, yes, 100%, they're always going to ask you about the one thing you didn't read about. It's going to all be the one thing you didn't read about. So that's the thrust and importance of understanding it, is knowing that there is something more that you like, something beyond you that is like maybe not knowable, but like knowing that there is knowledge beyond you, beyond the knowledge you have, even if you've been told it, which I think I used the great example of Euler's identity last time. Identity, which is this lovely e to the power of pi I plus 1 equals 0. You can show this to any number of people. Doesn't mean they understand it. And to me, that's kind of the sort of the whole thrust of the current criticism of Islam is, you say that you've read it so you know it, but you've read this, you don't know this. If God writes these things in nature, what on earth compounds you to believe that he wouldn't write these things in any religious text? So that kind of really puts the nail in the coffin for me, that the problem with religious people is that they have, like, it's not necessarily that you're wrong about God, it's that you're using being right about God as a reason to think you're right about so many other things, which you have no basis to think you're right about. Most pressingly, most annoyingly, most offensively is the idea that we should introduce Sharia law anywhere. Like, the idea that any human being should be able to judge other human beings on the things God has told us what to do, when in fact God tells you he is the master of mercy, he is the giver of mercy, he is the one who knows what's in your heart, like the secrets you keep from everyone else. He is the one who can judge whether or not you truly are repentant, or whether or not you're just faking it, or whether indeed you are faking it the other way around, which I hope eventually some of you will catch on to. But you know, maybe if I get bored, I'll keep dropping hints. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers the important things there. I am obviously a lot more rambly today, but we're gonna do a short stream while I just sort of have done something. At least that's the important thing here. At least I've done something today. Okay, you also said something that made me think, and it was like people believe in God because they seek comfort. And this is something I goes a little bit back to the thing I was saying here, is that you are, yeah, I forgot. I was talking about Sharia law. I was talking about how offensive it is. Let's not stop talking about how offensive it is that human beings tell me that we should live in a society where other human beings judge people based on their their limited, as we've established, I think, their limited and fallible understanding of things, and they're supposed to judge me for anything. How dare they? Like, what is that if not taking people as partners of God? What is that if not like saint worship? Like, it's worse than saint worship, because at least the saints are dead. So the view that many Muslims have, that any society should have Sharia law, that it would be a good for society to have Sharia law, is utterly unsupported by the evidence. There is absolutely nothing I have found, admittedly I'm only halfway through, which justifies this kind of grotesque arrogance. And the only defense I've ever heard from Muslims has been, oh, we don't have to be afraid because there's no people, and like there's no central authority telling us, like the Pope. And it's like, so what? You're giving it over to, like, they're hiding behind God. They're using the concept of God as a shield we can know because we're only doing what God told us. We only have certainty about what God told us. How dare you? How dare you believe that you, a fallible human being, can ever certainly know what God told you? And indeed, I look forward to laughing at you at your own trials when I do not I might get verbally berated by God in return for exactly how much I verbally berated him. And to be fair, I will deserve it. I have done more evil things than insulting God. And typically, the best way of making me realize is by verbally berating me. So, let's go. So we see comfort. I think that is very true. I was talking about it in the context of justice, that people want to comfort themselves, that they don't need to die. I do get on to that in my reply here. But like, is comfort denied by nihilists? So I would like to emphasize that there is more than that simple comfort you seek. It is the comfort denied to us by nihilists and absurdists, not only that comfort that you should be rewarded for your good deeds, but that evil deeds will be punished in time. You or I cannot stop that, nor should we want to. This comfort is in knowing that you do not need to save the world to do your part. A very important thing, I think, to believe. You can obviously get this without religion, but if you use religion to sort of contextualize these ideas, go for it. Have your fun. Have your imaginary friend. As long as you use your imaginary friend to become smarter and wiser, then there is nothing I can say. And if you indeed, if all religious people always did that, I would have a much harder time making any of these arguments. But of course, most religious people do exactly the same thing, because we have the same sort of issue. The same. That's what happens to feminism. That's what happens to communism. That's what happens to liberalism and democracy. Like, every good thing that has ever existed. Or communism isn't a good thing. Sorry. Or good. It feels good. It's like in principle a good idea. It's just really impossible to put into practice. It's like, in principle, the idea of teach whatever, not important. Every single one of these ideologies which have positive associations end up with this problem of people who are just narcissists, really, come to decide that like paint themselves in the colors of this thing. And so their reasoning, or their entire reason for being Muslims or Christians or feminists or whatever it may be, is just to say, you can't criticize me, that's anti-whatever. That's like, oh, that's sexist, or that's Islamophobic, or that's hostility to Christian, as we luckily got rid of their ability to scream, scream about outrage about being criticized, given all of the centuries, thousands of years, honestly, where they spent murdering people just because they wouldn't say the right thing. So yeah, it's important to emphasize that religion has a problem in that it doesn't necessarily lead evil people to good, nor does it prevent evil, really, because evil people will just convince themselves that actually God has communicated to them. They'll read the sword verse and they'll go, well, actually these people committed violence to me by being mean to me, so therefore now that was a violation of the social contract, so now I can do whatever, like I can hurt them forever. Like, people, the Muslims I've spoken to really underestimate how easily your ideas can be stretched, and that shows with the sort of tolerance towards, even though it's sort of looked down upon, these sort of terrorist groups, and Iran specifically, but and Iran generally, sorry, is the tolerance for the awareness of all of these twistings of your faith should remind you that faith is not the solution. Brain is solution. Thinking solution. That's the solution. To those, like, the message is clear to those who think and to those who understand. It doesn't mean those who accept what they are told. Those doesn't mean, like, those who understand. It doesn't mean those who do what they're told. Like, a clock does what it's told. A clock can never break any of the Sharia. And like we've been talking years ago about animals, they're sort of just automata, or they're not. But like these sort of ideas, we know that there are creatures who cannot, and beings and things that cannot disobey, but these things aren't holier because they cannot disobey. No, far from it. What we want from an understanding being is understanding, not simply memorization, not simply the delusion of understanding. So that is, I'm glad I got that off my chest. It's been a while, because honestly, before I start posting all of the things I've written about these years, I needed to emphasize this sort of difficulty. So let's see. I thought about it. So about comfort, and I thought about it, and it's exactly right. We seek paradise, but what's wrong with it? If we go back to Adam and Eve, they were pretty free in paradise. I'm also curious. I feel like that's not mentioned enough in the Quran. God set just one teeny tiny limit on them not to cross, and Satan made them cross. I'm gonna have a big explanation of that later. They lost paradise, and now there is not just one limit, there are hundreds of them. Hundreds of them. Like, depending on how you interpret it, either an infinite list, or, like, I would argue that it should be an infinite list. There should always be more. Like, the creativity of mankind should always give us more things to be worried about. The advancement, like, once we invented fire, then the law was don't touch the fire. Once we invented electricity, then it was don't let the electricity go through you. Like, there are laws of nature that are apparent to us that limit us, and that would not have presumably have limited Adam and Eve. Though I think that's the story is much more allegorical, which again, like, annoys me so much with sort of like here with Muslims insisting on the sort of truthiness of what, like I said, maybe it does mention, like, maybe it goes into great depths in the last bit of the Quran, but I remember very vividly reading all of these stories and being like, yeah, this is the Cliff Notes version, this is the short annotated version. Again, lending credence to my idea that the Prophet just randomly wandered around trading with people, like listening to people and hearing what they have to say, probably losing money gambling, probably getting drunk, and probably feeling the hangover, probably learning from all of his mistakes, and then sort of compiling this together with the theology and philosophy that was emerging at the time, and creating this version which explains it better to the people of the time. And that, I think, is fairly well and good, and for all of that. But of course, a lot of this is lost when people think um, that they know the answers already. In order to learn, you need to. All learning starts with a simple statement: I do not know. So, or as I like to do it, to say the exact opposite of what people tell me is true, and then see what happens, and sort of follow that logic. Our freedom has been cut and God a lot, and God promised that if we continue on the path of transgression, our freedom will be cut even more. That does not necessarily contradict what I've been saying about the whole alcohol thing. You lose. I mean, I'm less functional when I'm hungover, and presumably the reason I'm less functional today is because of all the god awful shit I ate this week. Exactly 1 week ago now that I ate that awful thing. So I should be feeling better. I mean, what's wrong with these limits? You've already talked about how bad these are. We are free to do science, which I think is very funny. If you cross this limit and see, like, the whole definition of the whole understanding of science and philosophy is that it's about crossing limits, about contradicting ourselves, about falsification. It's about trying to disprove ourselves. We might watch a video on this about someone, because it really triggered me, and it's going to stick with me so long. Yeah. I would say it's pretty... Okay, well, so we are free to do science. We are encouraged to do it, except you're only encouraged to do it by not doing it the one way science is done. And I would argue that if you were free to do science, you would be freer to explore. Actually, this kind of goes back to something I was thinking about earlier this week. I think is a modern problem is that a lot of Muslims don't seem to realize that you survived me before, right? This is not the first time the Quran has been faced with an indomitable enemy, an enemy who will not accept anything no matter what you say. It's not the first time it's been faced with skepticism, not the first time it's been tested by Western philosophy. We have famously the Islamic Golden Age, but I feel so much like the modern Muslims are like, well, okay, they did that, so nobody else ever has to. I don't even need to understand what they did. I can just sort of trust that they did it properly. And this is why we have these sort of issues of certainty. This is why people have such an easy time of hiding their narcissism in Islam. It's because people just say, well, and also because it's called the true faith. I think that helps narcissists a lot. Like it's too easy to convince yourself that you already know what you need to know to make decisions, when in fact you should always be open to the fact that you may make a wrong decision. In every decision you make, there is always the possibility that you make the wrong one, even the wrong one with the right knowledge. Like the understanding of our fallibility needs, like, you need to be aware that every time you make a decision, you may be negatively influenced by your own brain, by your own emotions. But then again, people don't go, no, we know certainly that this is the message that we have been told to share. So yeah, you are free to do science, and you are encouraged to do it, and it has been done. And what people are defending in my chat and in my comment sections, and every day when I was doing the whole Islamophobe Reads the Quran series, was this insistence that actually we don't need to do it anymore, or that it's actually bad to do this kind of thinking now, that because even though it was good 1,000 years ago, it's absolutely outrageous. We can do math. We can test a lot of things. East a lot of things. Test it, like, that's 2 letters. You missed 2 letters to write. Okay. No, where'd the A come from? That's what's wrong there. We can east a lot of things. Probably test. I would say it's a pretty big area when we can move with a high degree of freedom. Compared to nothing, then. Compared to no freedoms? Like, The only comparison we've gotten so far is a situation with more freedom, and they're like, actually, I think we're all good, and it goes. It's a sort of. This is why I feel it's so difficult here that Muslims are openly and obviously afraid of saying any, like, you're not afraid of thinking it. You can come here and listen to me, and you, like, the thought happens, but you're so afraid of putting it into words, these thoughts I'm describing, that it's sort of, and it's so obvious here, like, you're not even willing to say that there's a lesser, like, as far as we can tell, there's a low degree of freedom, or we've lost a lot of freedom, or it's negative, without going, well, it's all our own fault, and oh, we shouldn't blame God for that. Why? Like, how do you guys get off on having this relationship with God? I don't understand. Like, my entire life, I've had such a different, like, to me it seems this is the most obvious evidence that Muslims have no contact with God, because every contact with God I've ever had, he's been making fun of me. He's been laughing at me. He's been mocking me. He always shows me the things that I thought if I thought I was confident about something, but like if I had reason to know the truth and didn't know the truth, then what do I get? Constant reminders of it, like constantly shown throughout my life. Oh, actually, this is how you should understand things. So, to me, if anyone tells me that refuses to admit that God is a bit of a dick sometimes, I refuse to admit that they're really religious. And this is one of the big issues with Muslims is it obviously seems fake. It seems like you're obviously just walking around here talking about this sort of evil tyrannical God who's like, oh, but if I say anything even wrong, he's going to beat me because I deserve it. Oh, I'm not going to say anything evil because, oh, actually, I deserve it if I'd say something. And he told me not to. It's such an abusive relationship. It's exactly how people act in an abusive relationship. And it seems to me that most Muslims, instead of having a healthy, engaging relationship with a father figure, have an abusive father in God. And to me, that was more tragic than that. I feel like is, even though I'm still mostly an atheist, I've spent so much of my life on and off again believing in God, being sort of open to the idea of the supernatural, that when that the idea of watching you be hurt by somebody who doesn't want to hurt you, and being like abusing yourselves with your impressions of what you have to do, it seems like a version of self-hate. And that's what Islam is selling to me. That's what Muslims are selling to me. Not a way to trust in God, that all good things will be rewarded and all bad things will be punished. No, instead, you get to have this abusive master. That's what we're selling you, the depression and anxiety we have. It is in many ways more toxic than the absurdism and nihilism I was talking about, because it has the same elements. So more so than trying to make people into atheists, I want to make people realize that no, actually, you can have a happy God. You can have a God that loves you even with all of the harm he does. You can have a God who is strict but fair, or strict but forgiving, not fair, not just fair, but like a kind God who goes, you know what, I understand that you know that you did something wrong, and if you understand that, I don't need to punish you. And that's kind of like, this is what I think of as a kind father, but that's not what you guys think of when you think of God. You guys think of the abusive boyfriend. So that is, I think, to me, the sort of greatest tragedy. The thing I kind of want to teach and show Muslims is that actually you can have a nice one. And the thing I have to do then is pretend that I don't think God is an unnecessary conclusion, which I still think. I think that even if there is a God, you shouldn't believe in him. I made that point clear the last time. I should make a shorts where I start reading all of the things, or making shorts generally, and videos again, because clearly that's what people want to see, not me rambling on, no engagement here. Though then again, it's been a year since I did any of this, so I will give people credit. Oh, but I am too warm in my thick clothes, so give me a second. Okay. I had a lot of stuff I needed to get off my. Why is that light? Oh, whatever. We'll fix it another day. A lot of stuff I needed to get off my chest when it came to sort of the tragedy of talking to Muslims about God. Is that it's there's so much that's unsaid, and it's all about you have to be grateful. You have to show that you're grateful all of the time, and the only way to show that you're grateful is saying it out loud, not like he told you that he can tell what you're thinking in your heart. I've been like this was the thing I was thinking about the whole time I was doing the Muslim lantern thing. This is the thing I was talking about the whole time, and yet I know, like according to you, God knows this, but also according to you, you're not allowed to say it. So it's a sort of tragedy in many parts. And also, like I'm hopefully demonstrating, if you do that, if you are a little bit more open and relaxed and a little bit more casual in your relationship with God, you're going to have more converts. So you're not going to get, but apparently you're not going to get rewarded for doing that. So I guess you can just keep on lying to yourself. Honest, it's so sad. It's so sad to watch, try and have a conversation with a Muslim where you can it sounds like an abuse victim talking about their abuser, and that's supposed to be the sales pitch. Tragedy. Okay, so I made a long comment about axioms and baselines and epistemic conclusions, and I feel like that's relevant. Or you can read it if you want to. This, I think, is kind of more relevant because, to be all completely clear, I stole this from, as my little brother pointed out when I mentioned it to him, I stole it from Yuval Noah Harari. I think it was in *Sapiens*, where he talks about this interpretation where essentially the biblical creation story is a story about how humans evolved, like literally, like the thing people use, the thing biblical literalists and honestly to a certain extent Muslims use to sort of prove that God created everything as is. Like I feel like this is much better argument for or much better explanation for evolution, because it talks about the two, like the consequences are talked about as punishments. And the consequences of having a bigger brain, a brain that can understand the difference between good and evil, is that bigger skulls to hold the bigger brains And that these, and also because we have bigger skulls and we need to stand upright, because we're standing like this, then our neck breaks. So we need to have an upright posture. Having an upright posture means narrowing the hips. So all we have here is you get back pain if you bend forward, and pregnant women have to, in birth have to push a larger head through a narrower channel. Like, it feels like we just covered both of the bases. Both of the punishments are, as I say, consequences of our change, of our understanding the nature of good and evil. But of course, literalists abound, because if I understood it, because I understood it the first time, and if I didn't, and God only wants me to understand the truth, He can never make me, I can never be wrong about anything about which God says, only about the things. Like, it's this weird, like, people understand they can be wrong about everything else, but as soon as it goes to, well, but this is what I think God says, I can never be wrong about it. Very, very confusing to me. So yeah, I think that emptied out me. Emotionally, should we read? We can read. Why not? Why not read? As we start from where? I thought it was easier to find. Am I zoomed in? Of course I'm zoomed in. There we go. Reset. There we go. The opener. Name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. All praise is for God, Lord of all worlds, the most compassionate, the most merciful, Master of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and you alone we ask for help. Guide us along the straight path, the path of those you have blessed, not those you are displeased with or are astray. Amen. So let's see. Lord of all worlds. Oh yeah. I don't feel like you need that specification. But yeah, it kind of hints at the things I was saying, as compassionate and merciful, which is not the kind of God that people are describing to me. Not the kind of people. Like, a compassionate, merciful God doesn't care if you insult Him when you're upset. Like, imagine you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, and you like, and you like insult her. And it's like, buddy, I know you're upset right now, but that's not okay to say it, right? That's what you sort of, or I understand you're upset now, but please don't talk to me like that, right? It's a level of understanding which I expect from human beings who are presumably less than the most compassionate, most merciful being. But it's more than what you like the expectation you have from God. If you cross a line that your girlfriend says when you're upset, then your girlfriend is like, I understand you're upset, and you forgot because you're upset. You were too stressed at work to do the dishes. That's okay. I forgive you, but please do remember. Please do one of my chores today, so that we can sort of help balance things out, right? These sort of kind, understanding, compassionate, merciful things. And what do I get? No, I get, do as we tell you, or you will be punished. And not only in this life, we're going to make sure that you are hurt or not only in the next life, we're going to make sure you're hurt in this life too. Is very uncompassionate, very cruel, this idea that we're being shared with about Islam, even though the words don't, it doesn't seem like it follows from the words at all, which is why I always assumed it must have come from the hadith. That must be where you're getting this sort of evil interpretation, this harsh interpretation. It's interpretation that God is abusive and cruel and uncompassionate and unmerciful. But you start the whole thing with God is compassionate and merciful. Well, if He is compassionate and merciful, you can transgress all you like, buddy, as long as you did it for stupid reasons. Genuinely, as long as you had bad reasons for doing, like if you were convinced that that was the right thing to do and you really want, like, yeah, like you can be wrong about things. You're allowed to be stupid, and you should be allowed to be stupid. Oh, whatever. ALM. This is a script. This is the book. There is no doubt about it. A guide for those who are mindful. There is no doubt about it. Sure. Authenticity. Sure. Let's say that there's no doubt. I feel like it's a dangerous statement, but I don't know. A book telling us that this is the book. We're not trying to be satirical. We're trying to be honest. That this is straightforwardly. This is the book for those who are mindful of God, who believe in the unseen. So, well, there are plenty of unseen things not listed there, buddy. Actually, let's see if we can do it. If I added this, that's actually the easiest way to prove it. Imagine you just add these two texts in the front of one of those where like the Necronomicon, which isn't a real book, but like you add it in front of that was written by the mad Arab, I believe, because of our lovely little friend Lovecraft had these views about other people who are different from him. The genuine fear of literally his own shadow. Anything that wasn't in his mother's living room deserves to be afraid of. And even then, there are some things in there. Those who believe in the unseen, establish prayer, and donate from what we have provided for them, and who believe in what has been revealed to you, O prophet, and was revealed before you, and have sure faith in the hereafter. A completely different list to what we've gotten from the certain man, from Asif, from von Neumann's love child, I'm assuming. I love that he's called Neumann. Let's see. Establish prayer and donate from what we have provided from them. Believe what has been revealed in this book, presumably. I don't see notes for translation. And was revealed before you and have sure. So like the previous prophets, and have sure faith in resurrection after death. It is they who are truly guided by their Lord, and it is they who will be successful. As for those who persist in disbelief, it is the same whether you warn them or not, they will never believe. I've mentioned this, it's a sort of chillax, buddy. Don't worry about it. You don't need to save everyone. And also, like, I guess this appeals to me a lot as a former arguer, but and having this in my mind would have saved me so much grief and so many arguments, including one where I won't call him out too much, but he managed to throw in my face this wonderful statement: "You're only saying this because you believe it's true." And I wish I was wise enough to have said, correct. But instead I reacted how he wanted me to react, which was with outrage. He was trying to insult me by saying something which was a nice thing, which often happened. But yeah, persisting in disbelief is also worth mentioning. Is sort of just, the interpretation should be, you don't have to worry about everything. God has sealed their hearts and their hearing, and their sight is covered. They will suffer a tremendous punishment. Yeah, you don't need to worry about them. And if, like, those who persist in disbelief have their hearts sealed, right? I guess that's the reason I was given so much patience. But then again, I feel like I've said many times, if you deny a Muslim the right to be free, according to Western freedom principles, and you say, well, no, but Muslims have admitted that their God is real, so therefore they should never drink alcohol. Bullshit. You don't get to decide that. You are not the master of the day of judgment. And there are some who say, we believe in God and the last day, yet they are not true believers. They seek to deceive God and the believers, and they only deceive themselves, but they fail to perceive it. Now, you obviously think, though, that what I'm talking about are those people, those Muslims who might choose to get drunk sometime. I'm trying to point out to you, they fail to perceive it. If you were one such person, you are given here this exact thing that I was talking about, this exact necessary condition of doubt about everything, that you might be one of the false believers and you would fail to know it. And that's why I'm arguing, actually, atheists are better Muslims than most Muslims. There is a sickness in their hearts, yep, and God only lets their sickness increase. They will suffer a painful punishment for their lies. Again, like, this could be flipped around. Like, I understand you think it talks about me. Hello, good. I look forward to it. I look forward to being punished so that I know if I was wrong. Like I said, that's what science is all about, and that's what I'm all about. I'm all about being wrong and finding out why, and actually understanding why, not just being told why. But indeed, I would posit here how important it is for people who are convinced that they know what the truth is, they have understood the word of God, that you may be deceived by yourself. Only deceive himself. You might be deceived by yourself into thinking that you know, but you will never know that you are this. You will fail to perceive that you are this. And you will suffer a punishment for lying about God, for telling me that God is this abusive guy, for denying yourself the right to tell me the truth about how you feel about God. And you're so worried about telling me the truth about how you feel about God, presumably because you're afraid that this will turn me away. But you've already been told that it doesn't matter. Like, those who disbelieve, it makes no difference whether you warn them or not. So why are you so obsessed with this idea of not being able to tell me that actually you were upset at God several times in your life? Because if you weren't upset at God several times in your life, I don't believe you. I don't believe you're having any relationship with any God. I think you're having a relationship with yourself, and you're just you're just a narcissist who's masturbating, basically. Just a masturbatory fantasy. So they say they believe in God on the last day, and that they're not true believers. They will never perceive it. That is who I think you are, the false Muslims. The ones who are carrying the torch, but have long since forgotten what the faith was about. When they are told, do not spread corruption in the land, and they reply, we're only peacemakers. I wonder if that's exactly what I imagined you would say. And indeed what you said when I accused you without making the accusation couched in Islam. We're only bringing peace. Islam is the message of peace. Oh, we're just sharing peace. Yes, of course you are. When they are told, do not spread corruption around. Oh, I'm not spreading corruption. We're just this is just a peaceful religion. Like, you're literally failing on point two. Like, literally. Actually, I'm glad I started doing this in the middle here. This is so much supporting my own beliefs that it's impossible. I'm honestly, at this rate, I'm going to convert to my own form of Islam. None of you can be part. No, I mean, none of you can be a part of it, but you can all understand, because I will never tell you everything, and I cannot be a prophet. But I will certainly remind you that you might be one of those false believers. And indeed, perhaps then, when you finally have an example of someone trying their best, you will understand the difference between a false believer and a true believer. Indeed, it is they who are the corrupters, but fail to perceive it. Yes, indeed they are. Those people who come here and say that Islam should terrorize the West and make it its slave and turn it into, like, punish the West for what it did to Islam or Arab nations. Or in any other way say, oh, we're here to bring peace to you, except you have to forcibly, or you have to be exactly like us, otherwise we're not going to accept it. And we're going to like harm women, which is a thing that's happening in some Western places mostly by descendants of immigrants, I'll have to admit, who are not just leering at and catcalling and things they're sort of allowed to, but sort of expressly overstepping things they are allowed to, and essentially trying to create harm from Islam, and trying to do that while wearing the mask of Muslims. That is indeed, I think, damaging for your faith, as is all of the people saying we should have Sharia law in the West. That is damaging for Islam. You are harming the word of God. You are undermining the ability of Islam to ever take root anywhere. You just so that you can say we are the special ones. You're no different from Jews, and I hope you take that as offensively as I didn't mean it. More offensively than I meant it, I should say. When they meet the believers, they say, we believe. But when alone with their evil associates, they say, we are definitely with you. We were only mocking. And like you said, which happens when you talk to people. It's like, oh, they're so open and nice. Oh, but you accept it. Okay, now, actually, you have to do these things as well. And this is sort of, we only believe in letting people be free and happy and nice, but actually also now that you believe that you have to follow all the rules, or otherwise we're going to harm you, punish you, and otherwise ostracize you. It's like, you are only mocking this faith. You are only mocking the idea of it. You were mocking the whole principle of a religion of peace. You're mocking it by turning it into violence as soon as you have the option. God will throw their mockery back at them, leaving them to continue wandering blindly in their defiance. I guess God is comforting me as well now. They are the ones who trade guidance for misguidance, but this trade is profitless, and they are not rightly guided. That's kind of... I love profitless. It's sort of an elegant way of saying these are not the ones who trade guidance. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're saying, okay, I'm saying this misguidance you think you have, and you share it to and you guide other people with, is actually deleterious for the faith, and deleterious for yourselves, presumably at the end, because you're like I said, being on the straight path it's a long path. Okay? God is far away. God is not close to us. And there's quite a lot of difference where you are on the path. And you should always use the same strict testing of, okay, am I diverging from the path? Oh, I'm just going to read the book and reassure myself. That doesn't do anything. That you might just as well be reassuring yourself about all of the negatives. You might be reassuring yourself about your own misguidance. So yeah, I think that this is prime. This is why I'm talking about God being an asshole. This is the kind of thing God would do. Obviously. Oh, I spent months reading the Quran, slinging insults and taking everything personally, and then next time I read it, and it's like, oh, you are saying you meant that. Oh, of course you did. And you couldn't just have said that nicely. That's how God acts with me. I don't understand how you don't have this relationship with him. Is that I spend my entire life being shown by the world, by the universe, that I'm wrong constantly, and being mocked and derided. And it's to me, the Muslims are the faithless ones. The Muslims are the misguided ones. The Muslims are the ones who are taking Islam as a shield, as pretending that it is Islam they defend, when in fact it is only their own delusions. Their example is that of someone who kindles a fire, but when it lights up all around them, God takes away their light, leaving them in complete darkness, utter to see. I like if you're cooling down the wood, I guess. But when it lights up around, this is weird. They're willfully deaf, dumb, and blind, so they will never return to the right path. I guess that should be me calming down. Or those caught in a rainstorm from the sky, with darkness, thunder, and lightning. They press their fingers into their ears at the sound of every thunderclap for fear of death. And God encompasses the disbelievers by his might. Now, that's not how I react to thunderstorms. So I guess... that is what it is. That is... Oh, I thought I did the same thing I was just criticizing there. Like, oh, it's talking about me. No, it again goes into the whole thing I was saying. Like, oh, I feel like you're talking about this like it's some abusive boyfriend. Like you're listening to the thunder and like, oh, I'm so afraid, I can't think, I have to blind myself so I'm not so afraid. And it's like, walk into the thunderstorm with your head held high, with your faith as your shield. Know that God only punishes the unrighteous. So as long as you know and have good reason to believe in your righteousness, and indeed, as long as if you believe something is righteous and then you're wrong, you should find out somehow. You should try it and fail and see, like, be communicated with continuously. Uh, get drunk. At least once in your life, get drunk, and you will realize that it's so much easier to prove the Quran with evidence than it is to prove the Quran with this sort of. But we're just a religion of peace. We're just trying to be helpful. Like it sounds like you're in the thunderstorm, unwilling to understand what thunder is, because you're so scared of it. And you're like worried that if you think too much, if you go too close to the thunder, if you try to understand it too much, you're going to get struck by lightning. And you might, but then you learn. Make yourself the sacrifice so that other people might learn, even. This one really captured that whole abusive boyfriend thing. I was almost a better, obviously as a philosopher, I cannot accept that anyone might make a better analogy than I. But this is very good. This one, and it works exactly for the thing. But then again, if it was the same one, I wouldn't believe it. It is as if the lightning were about to snatch away their sight. Whenever lightning, yes, it's as if you. It seems as if you were on the cusp of saying, look, I understand God is a dick sometimes, but you don't want to do it in case your tongue falls out. Like you're just going to immediately be struck down for daring to utter something that you think might be a misrepresentation. It's like even to guide people towards the right path, you're not willing to show them steps on the wrong path to the right path. It's mind-boggling to me. And it's mind-boggling to me that it works so well for the things I've been saying. Whenever lightning strikes, they walk in its light, but when darkness covers them, they stand still. Oh, this is so good. This is so perfect. This is so perfect. This is exactly what it feels like to talk to religious people. It's like, oh, but if you aren't told exactly what to do, then you have no idea where to go. It's like, if we do not have certainty, like how do atheists I thought how would you go about setting your course of your life as an atheist? My dude, you're told that you can walk in the darkness. Had God willed, he could have taken away their hearing and sight. Surely God is most capable of everything. O humanity, worship your Lord who created you and those before you, so that you may become mindful of him. Oh, clearly that doesn't help. But I guess maybe if you're misguided, you will be deaf, dumb, and there. He is the one who has made the earth a place of settlement for you, and the sky a canopy, and sends down rain from the sky, causing fruits to grow as a provision for you. So do not knowingly set up equals to God in worship. Sure. I mean, I am 100% opposed to if you view this again with the sort of, well, God manifests himself through creation. Creation is there all of the time, so you will always have an open channel of communication to God through creation, through the world. If a book falls, then maybe God wanted you to read that book, or maybe God wanted you to read the title and think about that book. This sort of interaction constantly, and if you have this view of God as sort of the nature, the natural law, or pantheistic view almost, I must confess, because it's much more attributing meaning to things than necessarily a pantheistic universe needs to do. it does. If you have that attitude, then it is important. Then being mindful of God is being mindful of your sort of your own humility in the face of reality, your ability to learn from reality, your ability to learn from the things that come all around you. Not just whenever you open the book, he might talk to you, but whenever you walk outside, whenever you breathe, whenever you exhale, whenever you eat, whenever you think, whenever you shower, whenever you pee. Like all of these things are aspects that you should not deny yourself. So if you want to, if you can be mindful of that by praying to God, by all means. Or worship, or however you want to call it. What then is worship if it is to be mindful of your position in reality? Meditation of many kinds can serve as this worship. He is the one who has made the earth a place of settlement for you and the sky a canopy, and sends down rain from the sky, causing fruits to grow up as a provision for you. So do not knowingly set up equals to God in worship. And if you are in doubt about what we revealed to our servant, then produce a surah like it and call your helpers other than God, if what you say is true. But what we have revealed. Yeah, sure. I mean, most of the time, I just do it. But then again, I mean, making a surah like it, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. I mean, I guess maybe in Arabic, but maybe, it's so hard to write in Arabic and to write poetry in Arabic that it's completely impossible to imagine something. But then again, if you already believe that, I feel like it's the best that it's ever been written. But also, am I really disputing what has been revealed? Or depends. But if you are unable to do so, and you will never be able to do so, it's called, I don't think it's called poisoning the well in this case, but it's sort of prepping you, saying like, well, if anyone tries, then you have to automatically assume it isn't good enough. But actually, I think a much wiser way to do this and flip it around. If you feel like somebody has produced a surah like it, go back and read the Quran. Maybe you haven't understood it. Maybe you are in doubt about what the Quran says, because you have been so easily deceived by a surah like it. Then the fire fueled with people and stones, then fear the fire fueled with people and stones, which is prepared for the disbelievers. But if you are unable to do so, again, this feels like you're challenging me to be cocky, and I'm all down. I'm always down to be cocky. Give good news, O Prophet, to those who believe and do good, that they will have gardens upon which rivers flow. Whenever provided with fruit, they will say, this is what we were given before, for they will have been served fruit that looks similar but tastes different. They will have pure spouses, and they will be there forever. Faithful, I'm going to say, rather than pure. Pure has a lot of negative connotations in our history. Presumably the same ones, unfortunately. But there we go. Spouses who remain true. I mean, if spouses remain pure, it seems like they're not doing their job. Surely God does not shy away from using the parable of a mosquito, what is even smaller. It's kind of an interesting reference. As for the believers, they know what the truth is from their lords. But you don't know if you are a true believer or not. Okay, yeah, but here we're taking for a given that they're the true believers, and then they will know. But they will be confident. I mean, it feels like we're talking about me here again. I'm confident that I'm right about God, and you seem confident about you being right about God. Actually, I do want to mention something interesting here, because it sort of happens now. Now that I found that the Quran agreed with me about everything, it seems to me that when I read these things, they're like, even though it sounds like a challenge, and that's like what I'm saying with testing things, is like, okay, well, I feel like this is the interpretation. Well, okay, what do I need to test this interpretation? Well, try and write a surah like it. Okay, well, and you will never be able to do. Okay, well, I mean, what is the conditions like? I have to figure out what a surah like this is, um, and obviously, my my fear is not going to be spurred by my failure, but it's like I I the way you view these things is, well, I don't understand it, so I'm going to try and act on my incorrect understanding, because my understanding now is that this is the abusive idiot again. This is the sort of self-rationalizing, self-justifying. I'm right always and forever, and so and anything you think about doing to prove me wrong will always fail because I'm always right, and blah blah blah. But if you're really telling me God is a merciful, kind, compassionate God, then obviously He's not going to fuel a fire or throw me to the fire just because I failed to write something as great as the Quran, even though I tried. Like, I feel like that's the opposite of what a good person would try to match something great, something they think is great. Try their best to sort of. Obviously, I do have the view that perfect is the enemy of good, and maybe that's the whole message here, is understanding that you will suffer for your pursuit of perfection when you could have gone for good enough. Instead of trying to be as good as God, you can just be as good as the average. It's like being better than average is more reasonable a goal than trying to be better than God. That might be the message. But then I think you would discover that message by trying to use the first interpretation I had, which was, this seems like an asshole trying to punish you for doing something creative. And then you try to do something creative, and you go, no, but it needs to be better. It needs to be. It's not good enough yet. I need a little. I've read all of this now, and now I need to add this. And you just complex. And as a writer myself, of no success, of zero success, of no barely any attempts at success, I have to say, I can really I can really imagine this scenario playing out, and that sort of goes into this sort of attitude I think is important, which is that you should constantly be insulting what you think the Quran is saying, because you're not insulting God. God cannot be insulted by the likes of a mosquito. God can't or even a bacteria, or even smaller than that, of a speck of a molecule. God cannot be insulted by something so little. So the only thing you're insulting is your understanding, your brain. If my brain says that God is an asshole, then clearly my brain is the one that's a problem with, right? So instead of comforting yourself constantly, and instead of tying yourself to these ideas about an evil God, which 100% belief that God will punish you for thought crime, it's an evil God indeed. God will punish you for the thought crime of insulting him, even. That's an even more evil God. Or punish him for trying and failing to produce a surah the likes of God. That seems like an abuse of God. But then again, by doing this, am I insulting God, or am I insulting my pure little fallible understanding of God? And that's important. Jesus Christ, I haven't even gotten a that's. Oh. I'm not going to read the whole thing again. I'm probably going to read the whole thing by myself instead. But it is good to have this little moment here, I think, to highlight and emphasize why everything I've said about free speech, why everything I've said about Sharia law being bad, why everything I've said about your willingness to engage with God being centered around your willingness to explore your mistakes and to make mistakes, even about God, even about this test that is life. That it, like, if this is life really is a test, which obviously it isn't, because in a test you go back and check your answers. You can literally stop and then go, I'll deal with this later. But in life you only go through the one little list of examples. Even if this life is just as a test, if you were doing a test where you knew you wouldn't have time to solve all of the problems in the test, then you try your best, because if you try and fail, then you learn more and are more ready for the next time you need to try. So, yeah. Give good news, O prophet, to those who believe, and do good, that they will have gardens up under which rivers flow. Whenever provided with fruit, they will say, "This is what we have been given. We were given before." For they will be served fruit that looks similar but tastes different. Pure. That's an interesting thing. And they will be there forever. Gardens under which rivers flow. That's a fascinating one. Very Middle Eastern. Subterranean water, very very Middle Eastern. Our water runs on the top of things. Our rivers tend to splashes in the face. We're sort of familiar but better. Fair enough. As for the believers, they know what is the truth from their Lord, which is arguably like what I was like indicating here. Like, it's possible that the thing I said is true. This understanding that because you don't know yet, you will know. You have to learn. And as for the disbelievers, they argue, what does God mean by such a parable? Through this test, he leaves many to stray and guides many. And leaves none to stray except the rebellious. What? So they're literally discouraging you. That I refuse to say. Saying that you're a disbeliever just for daring to think. Those who violate God's covenant after it's been affirmed, break whatever ties God has ordered, they are the true losers. And yeah, spreading corruption in the land is the thing. After it has been break whatever ties in order to be maintained. I'm arguing that kind of applies more to Muslims than it does to atheists and Christians and everyone in the West. But yeah, this one I think. I mean, I didn't ask, though, to be fair. I didn't ask what he meant by a parable. Parable and metaphor. Oh. I see. The believers understand when God is using a metaphor versus when God is being literal. Again, it feels like it criticizes the Muslims more than the non-Muslims. Oh, it feels like the Islamophobes are right. How can you deny God? You were lifeless and he gave you life. Then he caused you to die again and bring you life. Well, I mean, not yet. And then to him you will all be returned. Then he will cause you to... Yeah, sorry, I didn't read it proper. You were lifeless and he gave you life. Fair enough. Okay. How can you deny nature, life, the existence of natural order? Sure, I can't deny that. He is the one who created everything in the earth for you. Then he returned towards heaven, forming it into 7 heavens. He's the 7th heaven. This is so much feels like a philosopher theologian being confronted by so many different things. He has perfect knowledge of all things. Okay, I'm restating omniscience. Yeah, I'm bored. I feel like we have emphasized the point I needed to make, which is that you should engage critically with these things, but also that maybe you're being told to engage critically with these things and you're not listening. Maybe you are being told and yet in your heart of hearts you don't believe. And maybe I should ignore you. This is them, whether you warn them or not. They will never believe. Maybe I should stop talking about Islam, because you're clearly too attached to your own values. Wow. It's deep, man. It's deep. I've barely gone 1.5 hours, but if I'm sitting here talking to myself, I can do that off stream as well. No, sorry, if my brain is lagging, I'm going slower and slower, and I feel like I've said the things I want to say, which I do, and nobody else has anything they want to add. Even Elysion, who dropped in very quickly and then left again. I'm assuming it's given that there's a pretty woman in the profile pic. I'm assuming it's just one of those spam accounts. But yeah, given everything, I think that we are done for today, and hopefully I can argue with you in the comments. And thank you all for not coming. We will see if we can do this a better way, or we'll see if we do some videos eventually, and that'll probably be more engaging for a larger audience. Possibly even just clipping this bit where I say, well, actually, it's the Muslims who are the false disbelievers. I don't know. We'll see.